platforms, there's probably about 30 degrees is optimal, okay? But you don't have to keep your feet facing forwards, okay? That's not massively important. What feels natural to you? We've got to stop telling people how to squat and encourage them to squat naturally, and then kind of coach what we can coach and accept what we can accept. So foot position. With the foot position, we want to maintain that arch, okay? If the foot is in a neutral position, okay, that appears to be better. What we want is obviously the tripod of the feet, okay? So the great toe, the little toe, and the heel, okay, kind of all balancing out in that tripod position, which is optimal. If we begin to pronate, okay, that's associated with knee valgus and internal rotation, and that kind of disaster that's associated with ACL rupture that we see from the literature. So we want to stay away from anything where we pronate excessively. A little bit of pronation is fine. Over-pronation, potentially not. If we look at the neutral foot position, okay, that appears to be as optimal as we can. And what we're also seeing in the CrossFit world as well, this cue about knees out, knees out, knees out, means that I'm coming up onto the edge of my foot, okay, and I'm supinating my foot too much, and we're getting that rear foot, although we want the rigid lever of the foot, we're associating that with a varus fall. Okay, whereas we had a valgus fall we're all looking out for, now we're seeing a varus fall. People right on the outside of their feet, okay, constantly telling my coaches off for that. So it's our old friend, weight-bearing dorsiflexion, okay, knee to wall, it's still essential, it still gives us so much information. I make sure my students always do this test. You're looking for asymmetry, the literature clearly states that it's reliable, okay, most of us can measure knee to wall, and it gives us lots of information. So don't think, okay, the ankle joint and the soft tissues associated with stiffness around that seem to be the culprit for most people that sit in chairs, i.e. you lot, including me. So now let's have a look at knee alignment. So knee alignment is important in terms of the biomechanics of the squat, although we have to accept that biomechanics is not the be-all and end-all. It looks like if the knee is tracking over the toes and the knee drops over between the first and the second ray, okay, that looks like the ideal position. Okay, so again, it's as close to that as we can get, but it's also to do with the comfort as well. So we're showing you an ideal. It doesn't mean that there's one universal squat pattern. So here we talked about knee valgus. Not going to go on about knee valgus. Everyone's done that to death. Okay. We're looking at that neutral position or the varus position as your preferential ones that we do. If you're a skier, you're probably going to benefit more from a neutral position. Okay. If you're an Olympic weightlifter or a CrossFitter, that varus position might give you that external rotation, that torque, where you can develop a little bit more. If you're a skier, you start external rotation, you're going to go on the edges of these skis and have a disaster. So it's appropriate how we squat to that individual. It's really important that we get that. Okay, so Uzo had the honour of meeting Dan John over the summer, wasn't it? Yeah, and Dan John has got this fantastic hip hinge squat continuum. My students get constantly confused by this, okay? What's the difference between a hip hinge and a squat movement pattern, okay? Because some of them look like they're doing a good morning squat, okay? And some of them look like they're squatting a kettlebell swing. So here's the continuum. When we're talking about squatting, we're talking about maximal knee bend, and a great example of that is the goblet squat, as if I'm holding a goblet, okay, and I'm squatting down in that position. Okay, good example of a hip hinge, okay, is the kettlebell swing, okay, where there's minimal knee flexion. Okay, so we're talking about this common language. Okay, if you don't know what a bootstrapper squat or a Zercher squat is, you can check out my blog. Okay, nice little segue there. Okay, so try and intrigue you so you can find out what's going on. Really important slide. I think that's highly valuable. So we've got to look at the biomechanics. When we're talking about squatting, we're talking about an equal moment arm between the knee and the hip. When we're talking about deadlifting or hip hinging, we're talking about a greater moment arm at the hip. So it's a hip dominant exercise. Now, when we go on to back squatting, okay, when we go on to back squatting, you can see the image on the left here, okay, is more of a high bar back squat, where the knee and the hip moment are more equal. If we're going to do a low bar back squat because we want to lift heavier, we're going to have to drop that down and make it a more hip dominant exercise. So effectively, you choose your pathology. Okay, do you want to wear up your knees or wear up your hip? Okay, and my advice is you probably mix it up a bit.